today's topic, roadblock number 2, dabbling in the 4 disciplines. The big question that you want to answer by the time we're done is, what am I? And I did post an article for you to give a little bit of background information on dabbling in the 4 disciplines. So you can read that as reinforcement if you haven't read it already. So the question is, what are you? Are you a speaker, a trainer, a coach, or a consultant? And this is a question we've been asking all the professionals we've encountered over the course of these many years, just to see how they go about labeling themselves, and then seeing what we can determine about their success potential based on that label. There are 4 basic roles we can choose from in being an independent human development professional, speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, but there are lots of other labels that you guys might also assign to yourself. So there are things like, oh, I'm an author, or I'm a facilitator, or I'm a lecturer, you know, a counselor. There's a litany of different labels that people might use, but you'll find that they're all pretty much variations on these 4 core roles that we can serve: speaker, trainer, coach, consultant. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to help you to really determine what you are, and then ask you to consider and answer the question, is that working for you? And so let's get right into it. So first of all, we're going to see if we can answer the question, how much of a dabbler are you right now? And so this is a pencil and paper exercise for all of you. So grab a little piece of paper and a little something to write with. And as I ask you these questions, I want you to kind of write along. So here's how you determine if you're a dabbler or how much of a dabbler you really are. What I want you to do is to take a 12-month inventory of all the billable services that you have delivered, and I want you to write down the amount of time that you put into delivering that service, and I want you to write down the amount of revenue that that service brought you. Then I'm going to ask you to assign each one of those hours or each one of those dollars to one of those 4 disciplines: speaker, trainer, coach, consultant. And then we're going to do the math and figure out, based on the amount of time that you're spending on something, and based on the amount of money you're getting, what do your numbers say you really are? And so again, you know, we haven't gotten into any detailed descriptions yet of those 4 roles: speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, but I think you guys have a basic understanding to be able to do the little exercise here. Now obviously, on today's call, you're not going to have enough time to really dig through your records for last year and really run this inventory, but I'm telling you, this is something that you really want to do in order to determine how big of a dabbler you really are. So again, take your 12-month inventory, assign each one to speaker, trainer, coach, consultant, and do the math. At the same time, this is something that I think you might find a very interesting thing to do, and that is to do a survey of all of your clients, all of your prospects, all of your colleagues. Just ask everyone one question: what do I do? So this is going to help us to gather some information about how you are currently perceived by the people that are surrounding you. So some of them might be on the client side, some might be colleagues, but what is it that they view you as being? So assign their answer to one of the disciplines and then do the math. Now, I happen to have done this, so I'm going to show you my results. Based on the facts, what am I? Am I a speaker, a trainer, a coach, or a consultant? Now, before I launch into my results, I'm really curious to know about you guys. So I'd like you in the question control panel to just type me the answer. Do you think of yourself as being a speaker, a trainer, a coach, or a consultant as your primary role? What would you say you are? So I've got coach. Let's see, I got another coach. Let's see, I got a consultant. Yeah, consultant, yeah, okay. Consultant slash trainer, coach slash consultant, okay. All right, so that's great. All right, so just wanted you to stop for a moment and ask yourself, what is it that you think you actually do? It'll be very interesting to see if your numbers actually support that. So here's the results for me. So now, if I just asked my clients what it is that I do, and again, you know, you guys know that our primary business is about certifying and supporting independent professionals who deliver our program content and use the ChangeWorks tool. So we're really in the business of certifying other people. So I asked the people that we certified, I'll ask all of our members, what do they think I am? And the answer I got more often than not was, I'm a coach. Now, that's very interesting because while I would certainly own the truth that I do give people guidance and I do what I call performance coaching, I'm not trained as a coach. I couldn't begin to provide anyone with a real life coaching session or anything like that. That's just not my background, my training, whatever. Nevertheless, I spend the majority of my time on the phone talking one-on-one to the people that we've certified about the subject matter or about how they're building their business or whatever the case may be. So I'm viewed by my clients as primarily being a coach. The second thing that they would say is that I'm a trainer. So that came up second most frequently, then consultant, and then speaker. So in the minds of my clients, I'm a coach, and then a trainer, and then a consultant, and a speaker. Well, if I look at the revenues, so where'd our dollars actually come from? My money actually comes from the fact that I am a trainer. And so I'm delivering training programs that people are attending, getting certified in. We also train other trainers, and so there's licensing and things like that that's involved. And so all that falls into the trainer thing. So by revenue, I'm a trainer first. The second thing is that I do the occasional speaking engagement for our corporate clients and that, and so I'm a speaker by revenue. That was the second greatest contributor. Then consulting, so working with a particular business owner on matters of their business operation, whatever. And then coaching. Now, the reason why coaching is lowest on the revenue is because that's not what we charge for. So we might charge our professionals a licensing fee, and included in that licensing fee is unlimited coaching, but I'm not charging them coaching. I'm not out there looking for a coaching client. In fact, we really won't even coach anyone unless they're one of our ChangeWorks professionals, MasterStream professionals. So by revenue, I'm a trainer. Now, if you look at by the number of hours, where does all of my time actually go? I do spend the vast majority of my time providing that one-on-one coaching to our instructor base in that. And then my next greatest amount of time goes to doing training things like the seminars and workshops and teleclasses and things like that we routinely do. I do the occasional speaking engagement, and once in a very rare while, I'll do a little bit of consulting. Truth be told, I've got 2 consulting clients from long, long ago who continue to call me, and I'm not going to tell them no, but I'm not out there looking for consulting clients. So by hours, I guess you'd say I'm a coach. Now my choice is that I would like to be viewed as a trainer first and foremost. I really don't think of myself as being a coach the way that all of you who are coaches regard yourself as being a coach. I think of myself as being a trainer. And so I tend to want to deliver program content. I tend to be quite directive about what I'm doing and let the chips fall where they may. So then I'm also okay being thought of as providing some sort of coaching to someone, but it's very much about performance coaching, not about anything else related to the world of coaching. And I guess I would rather consult with a client than stand in front of an audience, mostly because I spent so much time in front of audiences over these years that I'm kind of done with it. So I don't get at all excited with the thought that I'm about to go in front of an audience and do something. So it's like, okay, this again, press a button and I'll recite whatever it is that I really need to say. And so it's really interesting. Okay, getting a comment here. Yeah, so using the definitions in the article, yeah, and those are the ones that I really want you guys to focus on. Based on those definitions, how would you really identify yourself? All right, and so what I want to do is show you that even me, with all these years of experience, and obviously I've given a lot of thought to this particular subject to even be presenting this to you today, I've got inconsistency showing in my pattern as well. Now, at least my first choice, no, let me put it, the one who tops all 4 lists is either coach or trainer. And the secondary one, with one exception by revenue, is going to be the other one. And so there's a little bit of balance that's going on there. I feel like I'm doing something that's more consistent than not. But it would be very interesting to see what your patterns would look like. And so again, this is how you will really want to kind of just take an inventory. Based on your clients, your colleagues' framing of you, would they say you're coach, trainer, consultant, speaker, which? How about by your actual dollars? Because I have to tell you, that's the one that really matters. Where's your money actually coming from? That's what it is. And then how about by the hours, the amount of time that you're putting out there to get those dollars? And then what's your real choice? And then we can see, is there alignment? Is there alignment to what's really going on and how far out of alignment are things? So you guys are saying, I would be a coach, this is Lori sharing, to clients' revenue and hours and even your choice today. And see, this is great. If you have got consistency across the board, excellent. You're not dabbling. And if you read the article, you know that I said that dabblers are rarely doers and doers are rarely dabblers. And there's solid reasons for that we'll get into in detail as the call continues. But this is what we're trying to get to. First of all, recognizing what you are, not based on your thoughts about what you do or your choices, but based on how your clients view you, your dollars reveal you, and your hours reveal you. So what are you based on the facts? So again, I would encourage you guys very much to pour over in detail last year's performance and ask yourself which of these rank how for the different glances we're taking a look at it. Any questions about this particular exercise? Nope, so far so good? All right, good. So with that, let's take a look at the comparison between the 4 disciplines. Now, one of my reasons for wanting to do it, wait just a second, I have a question here. 1% hours, no revenue for speaker. 2nd degree, yeah, nice. Interesting. Yeah, consulting, interesting, very interesting. Thank you for that, Len. Yeah, so let's take a look at the 4 different disciplines and compare and contrast them a little bit, because I think, and I said this in the article, that it's not at all unusual to find one of our human development professionals with a business card that lists multiple roles. So they'll actually say that I'm a speaker, trainer, consultant, author, a core thinker. They'll come up with all kinds of stuff that gets crammed on their card. One moment. And I get it. We all do multiple things, and we can do multiple things. But there are reasons why we need to choose one. So let's take a look at each of these 4 different disciplines, and let's compare and contrast them. And by the end of it, let's see if you want to be a purist or if there's any changes you want to make in the mix of revenue you're making and dollars hours you're putting out there, and the perceptions of your clients. So let's start off with what a speaker does. How many of you do any speaking at all? I don't care if it's as a marketing attempt in your going after your target market. So how many of you are actually doing some speaking or another? Yeah. Okay, good. So let's just talk about the life of a speaker. I will tell you that long ago, 30 plus years ago, when I started this, I thought, I'm going to be a speaker. And so I started to pursue that path. And so here's what I learned. When we look at each one of these roles, the things that we want to look at are range. So how far might you need to stretch in order to get to your audience? So is your audience something that's more local? Is it in the region? Can I get to anywhere? Do I have to stretch myself globally? Whatever. So what's the range of my reach? The second thing we want to look at is how much travel is required. The third is how much income does it bring you per hour if you ran the math? The fourth one is, what are the additional income opportunities that that role offers? How big are the audiences, and how much contact do you actually get to have with those audience members? How long are your programs or the actual service you're providing? What's the tone of it? Is the tone of it going to be something that's very clinical, or is it something that's going to be very inspirational? What's the tone of the work that you do? Next one, how about the content itself? So is the content rather superficial? Is it deep? Is it a very broad thing? How focused? So what's the content like? Repeat business possibilities. Economic stability. So when times get tough, what happens to the people who have chosen that particular primary discipline? What kind of residual income opportunities are there? And what's the value of that business upon exit? We'll also talk about the different prospects that people need to target and where a book fits into the whole puzzle of things. So this is our little chart for comparing and contrasting the 4 disciplines. So starting off with a speaker. Now, a speaker is someone who wants to have or tends to have international focus, and certainly heavy recognition on the national side of things. So their goal in the mind of a speaker is to be someone that is globally known and very, very well known closer to home. So their range is international. They do travel frequently. In fact, almost always, in order for a speaker to deliver services, they're going to need to travel somewhere, maybe by car, but maybe more often than not, they're flying hither and yon. The amount of money they can make for a single hour of their time is extremely high. Keynote speakers will routinely get fees from $1,000 to $20,000 on the elite end of things, maybe more for some of the real celebrity level speakers. But generally speaking, a speaker will pull anywhere in the thousands of dollars for an hour, seemingly an hour-long presentation. As far as being able to make additional income is concerned, speakers do sell books and their DVDs, and they might even sell like a membership to a little web community or something like that. So they do have some moderate opportunities to make some additional money while they happen to be there. Their audiences tend to be very large by comparison to the other 4 disciplines, but their contact with the individual audience members is rather minimal. Obviously, they're standing in front of an audience that fills an arena. How much actual contact are they going to have with the individual audience members? It's really minimal. The program duration is measured in hours. The tone of the program tends to be very upbeat and inspirational, motivational, etc. But their possibility for the content of the program tends to be very wide. Because they have such a small amount of time with an audience, there really isn't opportunity to go into all that much depth. And so you'll find that what a lot of speakers do is report on a lot of different subjects crammed into a single presentation, but the depth is very superficial. So they're basically reporting on a variety of things, giving you highlights and little glimpses. And that's neither good nor bad. That's just the nature of the beast. They just don't have the time to go all that deep. Repeat business. This may seem wrong, but it's quite right that the chances of a speaker getting a repeat deal are pretty low. Now, that's not because they didn't do a good job, but the nature of the speaker is to stand in front of an audience at like some major event that's going on. And this event might be like an annual sales retreat or whatever the case may be. And so no matter how good of a job they did, next year that organizing committee is going to say, wow, do we want to have the same guy back again? They really did like him. Or, you know, maybe we should bring in something fresh or whatever. So the nature of that speaking business is that while they may use you at some point again in the future, it's probably not something you're going to be able to rely upon in your business model, that if they use you once this year, they'll use you multiple times this year. So in fact, we say that if a speaker wants to do 100 billable days in a given year, they're probably going to need the better part of 100 different clients to make that happen. So that's the idea about the repeat business. Economic stability. The economic stability for the world of a speaker is very, very low indeed. In fact, let the economy take a hit, and you're going to watch companies decide they can no longer bring in the celebrity speaker because they don't have the budget for it. So they're going to choose people that are lower cost, more local, maybe even say, let's not bring in an outsider. Let's just see what we can find inside of our own company. Who can we put in front of that audience? So there's an issue there. There's also a very big issue that any speaker who was trying to operate a business during 9/11 learned very quickly. And that is that there are things that can happen that make people not want to travel anymore and make people not want to congregate into large meeting facilities. So following 9/11, meetings were canceled right and left. People didn't want to travel. They didn't want to assemble in big groups. And so more and more emphasis was being placed on delivering things by webinar or whatever. And so we had lots and lots of friends that are main stage speakers, very highly accomplished people in the world of the National Speakers Association, and we watched several of them have their practices come to a screeching halt because of not only economic issues, certainly back a few years ago when the economy got really tight, they were losing their opportunities right and left. And so when it comes to economic stability, they are very vulnerable to what might be happening. Let's see if I'm getting comments about that. Will slides also be posted to the website, or should we take notes? Actually, Victoria, the slides are part of the webinar, so the recording does contain all the slides. I don't post the decks separately. This little chart, though, if you think this might be interesting, I'm happy to post this as a little handout if you'd like. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so residual income. Residual income means, is there a way for me to make money after I have finished delivering the program? Is there some money that might continue? Well, again, I said that sometimes the speakers can get people to subscribe to whatever their online system happens to be. So there is some opportunity for them to sell something once and continue to make money from it. So there are some moderate residual income opportunities. Exit value is quite low. What this means is that when you get to the point in the development of your business that you wish to close it, so we talk about your business having its own kind of lifespan. So we talk about starting off in the spring, and then you go in the summer, and then the autumn and the fall, or the autumn and then the winter. Well, when you get to the winter of your business's lifespan, you have to ask yourself, what do I do now? Do I just go out of business and there's no more revenue, no nothing? Or is there something that I've built that I can actually sell to someone else or leverage in some way that actually brings me revenue on the way out the door? Well, the moment a speaker steps off stage, that speaker is unemployed. And because the speaker has built their whole career around them as a personality, them as an entity, they can hardly sell that to someone else. They may try to mentor someone coming up through the ranks, but very, very rarely do we see that the mentor, the mentee, has any real success following the departure of the mentor. We're watching a lot of the greatest speakers that any of us have known during our lifetimes reach this. So, for example, Zig Ziglar. Well, certainly countless people have been trained by Zig. Many people would love to be Zig's protege and basically step in as his replacement. Yet to this day, that's simply not something that's going to happen. So you just can't replicate yourself. So the exit value is really pretty low. The day you're done, you decide you're done, you're done. And what you're going to walk away with is what you've accumulated up to that point. Now, target prospects. If you want to build your career as a speaker, you're going to need to focus on meeting planners so that they know you exist in these events. You're going to need to get successful enough that a bureau would find you interesting, because those bureaus are the ones that are out there working with those meeting planners to help them fill the talent requirements they need for these presentations. And at the earlier stages of building a speaking career, you really have to know the people that are in charge of associations, both locally and nationally, maybe even internationally, because they're always looking for presenters. And so in all likelihood, most of you are getting your speaking engagements right now through these association or group program chairs, things like that, that have got an event coming up where they are open to having you give a presentation. So these are the people that you're really targeting if you're trying to build a business as a speaker. And if you have a book, you use that book because you sell at the back of the room, so you're making a little bit of revenue that way, and you use your book rather extensively as marketing. So that's the life of a speaker. Now, let's see if I've got any comments, questions here. Denise, I see you have your hand up. If you have a question, just type it over to me. I'm more than happy to share it. Or I'll just lower your hand. Okay, so now let's talk about the life of a trainer. And again, this one I hold near and dear because this is the one that I like to think I am, or I would like to think people view me as being. But I've always considered myself to be a trainer. As a trainer, generally speaking, the range tends to be a bit more regional. The people that we know are trainers are likely to drive someplace to deliver a training engagement. They might fly. Now, in my career, because I've done so much training with so many clients, if I have a training engagement coming up, I'm probably going to get on an airplane and travel probably internationally for that. But for most people who choose to develop a career as a trainer, their focus tends to be a bit more regional. So they'd like to be able to drive, do their training engagement with a company that is somewhat local, and then come home. And they may do some national or international travel, but it's not really the daily part of their routine. So most trainers will travel occasionally. The amount of money a trainer can make for an hour of their time may not be as high as a speaker, but it's really quite solid. So for example, right now the going rate for an independent trainer delivering a program in a corporate setting, and its content that the trainer owns is going to be somewhere between $5,000 and $7,500 a day. So if you run the math, that's somewhere between, say, $600 and $1,000 per hour is what they might be getting. So that's a significant chunk for an hour of someone's time. The additional income possibilities for a trainer, though, are extremely high. Trainers will do needs assessments. They will do program customization. They will do all sorts of interviews of people up front. They will custom develop programs and program materials. They'll either develop or assemble assessments to be able to really understand readiness levels and things like that of people that are going to be in the audience. They then deliver the program. That's what they got the big dollars for. And then afterwards, there's reinforcement things they could be doing. There's coaching that could follow it, consulting hours that could follow it. There's all kinds of opportunities for a trainer to pre-load and to post-load a variety of services to them. So for most trainers, the amount of money they actually get for delivering that program is less than half of what the overall amount of total billing may be. And so trainers have very high opportunities for making additional income beyond the delivery fee itself. Now, trainers do tend to work with medium-sized audiences, so maybe that's a couple of dozen people, a dozen people around a table. Maybe it's a pretty big audience on occasion, but usually a trainer needs to have a bit more audience contact. Trainers are asked to provide people with knowledge they don't already have, to help them to get skills and show those skills. And so you need to have an audience that is small enough that the trainer can have enough interaction with them to know that the skills are being practiced and hopefully being transferred by the time that training program is over and done with. So we're going to say a moderate level of audience contact. Those of you who have done training before, you probably know that. Even in a program of a half a day, you probably know a few people in that audience by name, and you'd remember them next time you see them. So there's enough contact that a bit of a relationship can actually get started. The program duration for a trainer usually measured in days. I get it, there's a lot of half-day things and things like that, but usually the duration of the delivery is going to be a day, 2 days, 3 days, whatever the case may be. The tone of the program tends to be quite practical. So as a trainer, we are there to make sure people have that knowledge, have that skill, have that experience, and it's all tied to whatever their needs assessment was, and it's all very much geared towards performance and all that. So it tends to be quite practical. The content, trainers tend to go deep where speakers tend to go broad. So a trainer wants to do a deeper dive into whatever the skill set is or the subject matter. So that means the trainer has to have that depth. You can be successful as a speaker with a superficial knowledge of a bunch of things, so that they don't really need to have a whole lot of depth, because rarely are they going to have the opportunity to go deep into a subject, and rarely are they going to be asked to do so, where a trainer has to be able to go deep. Repeat business opportunities for a trainer are very high. If you do a good job delivering a training program inside of a company, in all likelihood that company is going to have another need for that same subject. So particularly when we're looking at subjects that are related to sales skills and management skills and leadership skills and practical things like time management and setting priorities and communication, this isn't something they need once, or maybe not even once in a blue moon. This is something that they have an ongoing need for, and once they find a program that they like and a person to deliver that programming that they like, you tend to get a lot of repeat business. That means that if you are a trainer and you want to have 100 billable days in a given year, you don't need to have 100 different clients like the speaker needed to have. You might only need a handful. So depending on how many days your program is and how many clients are going to need. One moment. Okay, just need a little drink of water there. So I'll give you an example of this one. This past couple of years, I've been working with a relatively large client. It's actually a rather massive client. And I would say to you, they've given me somewhere between 35 and 50 billable days each year. So right there, if I was only trying to get after 100 billable days, I'm a third of the way to a half of the way full just with one client. so the pressure that's placed on a trainer to sell their services and market their services is less than the pressure placed on a speaker to go out there and generate those kinds of opportunities. Economic stability. Economic stability for a trainer tends to be very high, as long as their subject material can be rather flexible. This is the example that, when the economy gets tough and organizations start to lay off people right and left, what they very quickly realize is that the remaining people need to have solid skills in order to continue to be successful and to turn the whole situation around. And so, if anything, when times get tough, subjects like sales training become even more popular than they did beforehand. And so certain subjects lend themselves very nicely to poor economic times. The great thing about, for example, sales training, though, is that when times are good, they still want you to now take people to a whole new level. So there are certain subjects that offer a higher level of economic stability than other subjects. Now, if the training that you're delivering, though, are subjects that the powers that be consider to be mission optional, and these are things that might be good things to know, like employee sensitivity, communication skills, team building, all that. They may say when times get tough, those subjects need to be set aside. And they need to, free up dollars, and so something's got to give, and they'll give up those particular subjects. So that economic stability that trainers enjoy is directly connected to the subjects that trainer is out there actually producing. But they have the potential for not only high economic stability, but stability that actually represents an opportunity to thrive when other people are struggling to survive. Residual income. This is, again, when you're done, can you still make money? And when it comes to being a trainer, if you develop unique program content, then you can turn that into a training program that others can be licensed in. And you can go from being a deliverer of training programs to someone who is training the trainers and then collecting licensing fees. So long after you decide you no longer wish to step in front of an audience, you can still have people that are out there delivering those services. So if you've got subject matter that is unique to you or a unique way of delivering traditional material, you can still build a lot of residual income around that. And because you're building that residual income, you can actually have a much higher exit value when a training company goes, I'm not going to say out of business, but when that individual retires, they tend to have something they can sell to a successor. And they can, get, a substantial amount of money. So for many people that have built training organizations, their most valuable asset is that intellectual property and what they have done with that intellectual property. Okay, target prospects. If you're a trainer, you're calling on the managers and executives inside of an organization. You could be calling on the HR department, although they tend to be a rather dicey lot to deal with sometimes. Tier 1 suppliers, so the larger organizations want you to market yourself to the people they've already pre-approved, and so it's a different person you're calling on. Or contract firms. These are people who are out there finding the engagements. They're just looking now for people to stand in front of the audience and deliver it. Obviously, if you're a trainer and you're getting all of your business through a contract firm, then your exit value is zero because you don't have any of your own intellectual property. There's nothing for you to sell. So you have to kind of really look into the target prospects you're going after. If you're a trainer and you got a book, you'll probably use it as a course book, training materials, so a textbook, and obviously for marketing purposes as well. Okay, so now, are you a consultant? So a consultant, let's take a look at what their reality is like. And I think a couple of you said you do consulting, and I think we had one or two of you who chose consultant as your primary identifier. So let's take a look at that. Consultants range tends to be a little bit on the local side of things, but I also put expat there. What I mean by that is this. Usually when a consultant is doing their work, they are going to go to that client's area, geographic area, and they're going to remain there for the duration of the contract. And so if that's in your own backyard, great. You're just driving from your house to them, and you're doing that every single day. But let's say you need to travel to it. I don't care if it's by car or by flight. When you get there, you know you're going to be there for a good long while, and so you end up kind of like becoming a short-term local, an expat in that particular area. So, and then from there, now that you're physically there, you just travel locally to get to whatever's done. And these things can go on for weeks and months of time. So the travel itself, and I mean schlepping to the airport and getting on a plane, is rather infrequent compared to what trainers and certainly compared to what speakers would be expected to do. The income per hour you can get as a consultant is nothing to sneeze at. It's still going to be in the hundreds of dollars per hour, but probably at the lower end of things. So a consultant might walk away with, say, a couple of $100 an hour up to $500 an hour, depending on what they're consulting around and that sort of thing. So not as much as a trainer would be getting for an hour of their time, and certainly not as much as that speaker got for that 1 hour keynote. Additional income opportunities for a consultant are really quite low. There isn't a lot of prep work to be done. I mean, you're there doing the consulting, and so any discussions you had leading up to that were probably more in order to get the deal. And so what else is there to sell around it? You're doing the consulting. Now, if you're a consultant who also happens to be a trainer, maybe you can point someone into another product offering that you have, but you usually, pardon me, consulting projects and consulting hours are sold as a block, as is, and there's not a whole lot coming around in and around it. Yeah, you might use the occasional assessment tool, you might whatever. That's why I said low, not zero. Audience size, consultants tend to work with small audiences. Maybe they're just working with a few colleagues at that client company. Maybe they've got a colleague or two of their own. But the point is, they're not in front of a group of people. They're working kind of like as an extension to the company's natural workforce. And so there's some small audience size. Audience contact is continuous. They're working with these people frequently, daily, routinely. And it can go on for weeks, maybe months between that. And that all sounds really exciting, really good, but there's a downside. The tone of the programs they do tend to be serious. Usually when they're bringing in a consultant, it's to either fix a problem or to fill a gap or to get to the bottom of something, you know. So there tends to be something that's driven around an issue. So that's the tone. It tends to be quite serious. The content, they tend to go deep. They're trying to find the answer. They're trying to fix the issue. They're trying to resolve whatever the situation may be. Repeat business, I said low. What I mean by that isn't that client company may not extend the contract or may not use the person for another project. I'm saying, can they go and deliver that exact same consulting to a different client? That's what I mean by repeat business. Can you go and do the same thing with the same client? And the answer here is, well, no, you'd have to do something different with that client. Maybe you could take what you've done to another client, but because you've been doing consulting, that tends to be something that's unique for each person. So where the training program can be, 90% locked, and then 10% of it gets changed through customization, and the speaker is standing up there and delivering something they've probably memorized. So the repeat business opportunities for consultants are rather low. Economic stability, moderate. Depends on what you're consulting on, but a lot of times when companies say, we got to cut back on our employees, we got to cut way back on that, what they end up doing is then farming it out to contractors. In fact, we've watched many people become independent professionals because their company needed to downsize, or offered these people some sort of early exit buyout kind of a situation, and then turned right around and hired those exact same people as consultants to continue to do the work they'd always been doing. And so it might have moved the dollars to a different line item in the budget away from staffing and into external consultants, but nevertheless the work can still be there. So point is, even when times get tough, there are certain needs that exist, and there is some moderate stability for the consultants there. A residual income for a consultant, there really is none. And exit value, there is none. Unless you're the owner of the consulting firm or you develop some unique consulting methodology or whatever, what is there to sell on your way out the door? And you could say, yeah, but I've got all these clients I've been consulting with. I have a protege that I've been bringing up the ranks. Well, that protege is going to have to do something to establish themselves as your equal if they wish to ever be viewed as that equal and be able to continue to harvest opportunities from those clients as you decide to go to a tropical island somewhere. So let's see. Now, when it comes to the prospects, consultant tends to target executives. And if not the executives, then someone inside of the organization that has been tasked with finding someone to resolve a particular issue, in which case we kind of consider that to be like the executive sponsor of whatever it happens to be. So you have to get in there and be able to sell yourself to those management types all the way up to the C-suite. You can also get business through consulting firms. So a lot of times a consulting firm will land a very large project and need additional hands. And so they build themselves a little cadre of consultants they can go and assign. Or maybe contract firms where you basically list yourself with agencies, and when an opportunity arises, they plug you in a locum tenens kind of situation. Consultants who've written a book, usually it's about credibility, and certainly they can use it for marketing as well. So that's a little bit of a glimpse into the life of a consultant. Consultants, by the way, are very much a victim of feast and famine. And it's just kind of unique to what they do as a consultant. When a consultant lands one of these contracts and they're now out there delivering the services, that tends to be something that is all absorbing, all consuming of their time. And so they don't have time every week to do marketing for the next opportunity. They really don't have time to be making sure that they are protecting their brand and building all that. They kind of throw themselves in there. They got this great deal. They're busy, busy, busy. They're making great money, but their business itself is being neglected. And so when that contract ends, and sooner or later they all do, people that have positioned themselves as consultants find themselves with nothing. They don't have a client to go to. They've done little or no marketing to have the next client in the pipeline. Their brand has kind of fallen by the wayside because they've not been giving it any attention. And so oftentimes people that are out there as consultants find themselves basically starting almost from scratch all over again. Where the other ones, because the work does not require weeks and months of devoted time, we do have time each and every week to devote to things like marketing or doing additional program or product or service development, things like that. So we have time to put into the business. Consultants struggle to do that. And then the last category is probably the one that's of most interest to you guys, because I think most of you, the majority of you said you do quite a bit of consulting, or rather coaching. So let's take a look at the reality of a coach. In the reality of a coach, the range is telephonic. They can do work anywhere on the planet, but it's almost always done telephonically. Could they go and visit with a customer? Absolutely. So there's still plenty of coaches out there that are focusing on more their local market, working with the executives, or they're willing to travel periodically to a different locale to deliver those coaching services. One moment. We even had a colleague who's since retired from their life as a coaching, but their business was called, you're going to love this, Coaching on the Fly. Coaching on the fly was not about just, someone who has an immediate need for coaching and we just do that like, ad hoc right there. No. Coaching on the fly was completely focused on C-suite executives. And what our colleague did was they arranged to meet that client at the airport, and they would fly with that person to wherever they were going. So while they were sitting on that airplane, almost always in first class, they would use that time to provide a coaching session, because there weren't telephones, there wasn't internet, there was nothing else for the executive to do but read a book, which was really good for the speakers and the trainers, but it was otherwise kind of downtime. And they, read this, what that. Well, then laptops came along, and people were able to do internet on an airplane and all that. So that was that. But that was their idea, coaching on the fly. They would fly with you to wherever you were going, wait while you did whatever you were doing, and then fly back with you, and call that all now. Someone just said, I must confess it concerns me that coach looks like low income potential. Let's talk about that. So Do coaches have to travel? No, they don't. So if they wish to, it's because they chose to. It is not something that is kind of built into the work, where if you're a consultant or a trainer or certainly a speaker, it just goes with the territory. You're going to travel. But coaches, not so much. The amount of money you can make per hour is what the question really is. Many coaches can make money that is equal to a consultant on an hour-by-hour basis. It is a rare coach who can make as much money for an hour of their time as a trainer will make for an hour of their time. And I've not yet found a coach who can make as much money an hour as that main stage speaker will be paid for an hour of their time. Now, in all fairness, when I look at the amount of money a speaker might be making in that hour, we have to also factor in that's kind of absurd when you map out a whole week. A speaker might only speak twice a week. And so while I might be getting $5,000 for each of those 2 speaking engagements, they still only made $10,000 for a week, which if you said, well, based on 40 hours, they're making $250 an hour. So you could say that a coach doing $250 an hour is doing just as well as a speaker, but the coach has to be delivering 40 billable hours a week to make that math work. And so we do want to look at that. This is like, how much money do you make in a concentrated way? So, for example, the more efficient a speaker gets at everything else, they're still making a lot of money, more and more money for each one of those hours on average, where the coach is going to have a certain amount that they can realistically expect the population they are targeting to pay for an hour of their time. And so maybe in some areas of the coaching industry, that's $500 to $1,000 an hour. But is that what the typical coach is making? Well, the answer is no. So we were mortified to speak with a coach recently who was struggling, and so brace yourself, everyone. They've decided to reduce their fee because $50 an hour was too much. So anyone horrified by that thought on the call right now from among my coach? Pardon me. Finally getting over a cold. They thought $50 an hour was too much, and so they were lowering their fee. Most of the people that we know that are coaching are certainly making $150, $200, up to $300. We have a couple of high-level executive coaches that are making $500 an hour or more. But by and large, among the 4 disciplines, for an hour of the time, the billable rate for a coach will be at the lower end of the scale. Now, how about additional income? Well, the possibility for a coach to make additional income is also somewhat low. Now, could the coach sell the person a book? Absolutely. Could the coach ask someone to fill out an assessment of some sort? Absolutely. So there's some additional income possibilities, but certainly nothing compared to what a trainer would be able to do with like pre-training program customization and all kinds of consulting and on and on and on. So, but there is some there for them as well. Audience size, coaches tend to work with individuals, sometimes with a small group of people, but mostly it's about doing individualized work. Their contact is scheduled, and so they tend to talk to someone every week, every other week, once a month, whatever the frequency is they've assigned, and most of them are available for quick questions here and there from their clients as well. But that contact tends to be very disciplined and scheduled and formal. The program duration tends to be ongoing. And so where a speaker will deliver an hour and be done, or a trainer will do a few days of training and be done, or a consultant will work for weeks or months and be done, the coach in a well-developed coaching relationship could continue that relationship indefinitely. And so there is an ongoing need for people to receive coaching, whether the coaches believe it or not. We've met a lot of coaches who basically say, well, there'll come a point in time when they no longer need me. Nope, their subjects may change, their issues may change, but I promise you they could still benefit from coaching no matter how old they get, no matter what they're doing. There's always the possibility for them to benefit from coaching. So that's great. If you got a good client, you can keep them going, I'm going to say indefinitely, but it's really as long as it makes sense for both of you to do that. The tone of a program for a coach tends to be quite supportive. And we don't need to get in details around that, but that's also the spirit of what the coaching relationship tends to be. The content could be deep and could be broad. One moment. Wow. Sorry about that. Could be deep and could be broad. It really depends on where they're at in their discussions and what the subject matter is around the coaching relationship. Repeat business, moderate. Again, if they do a good job, there is no reason why those relationships can't continue. So there's a good possibility for additional work with the same client. But also, particularly in an organizational setting, if they do a good job with one member of the organization's team, they kind of go like, well, maybe so-and-so should be working with you as well. So there's kind of like a bit of a natural spread that can occur in a well-structured coaching relationship. Sadly, the economic stability for most of the coaches we know is very, very low. And when the economy took its hit a few years back, they suffered big time. And part of the reason is that for a great many of the coaches, their focus is about taking people who are already in a good place and helping them go to the next level. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thought. We'll get into that in more detail next week when we talk specifically about economic vulnerability. But when times get tough and the money gets tight, people start asking themselves, can I really afford right now to put my time and my energy and my money into this? And sadly, a great many coaching clients decided that they could no longer put the money out for that sort of a thing. Will they be back? Hopefully, but for that period of time, it simply isn't there. Now, there are other coaches, though, that saw things were happening. People were losing their jobs right and left. And I know a lot of consultants who were doing consulting really like life coaching and things that were more about development and that. And then they decided to become career coaches or even some resume coaches, job seek coaches. So they were flexible enough to recognize that the need for coaching was still there, but the subject matter around the coaching had changed. And so they were able to turn, lemons into lemonade, many of them. But people who were kind of stuck in delivering only one kind of coaching to only one kind of client who was dealing with only one kind of situation found themselves in some very difficult times. So there's an issue there around economic stability. A residual income, also low. Again, sell something once and it keeps on paying you because there's really not much that you can leverage that way. Coaches tend to not make much money after the relationship with a particular client is over and done with. Now that said, we've met some coaches who have developed a particular coaching approach or coaching methodology, coaching tools and techniques, and they decided to start to provide training services to their own coach community. And so they may still think they're coaches, but what they really did was they morphed into being trainers. And now they've got they're licensing people or certifying people or whatever into their coaching methodology. But those are the rare ones. And so as a result, the exit value is also quite low. The day you decide to close your coaching practice, there's not something you can sell on the way out the door. You can't sell your client list. You can't, because that work's all over and done with. So that's the issue. Now, target prospects, interestingly enough, for coaches are vast. So every individual on the planet could be a prospect. So plenty of entrepreneurs, they go over to small businesses. Some of them do also work through contract firms. And then, they're basically a coach that's being assigned to a particular task. Obviously, you can take that amount of money they make per hour and cut it dramatically if their coaching opportunity is being provided to them by someone else who found the deal and closed the deal. But nevertheless, there is work to be had by coaches through contract firms. They tend to use books if they have one, and it's pretty rare that they would, but they tend to use it for credibility and for marketing purposes. Now, we're coming up to just a couple of minutes. Let's see. Someone is saying, I'm concerned that this chart, the coach column, is explaining why I'm struggling to create a sustainable business that supports me. This is something that many people talk to us about, and this is why I wanted to have this discussion, because a lot of people, when they first hear we're talking about dabbling in the 4 disciplines, they say, well, I'm a whatever, and that's what I want to be, and, that's all I can be, and whatever. It's kind of like, wait. If you just take a moment and really understand what these 4 disciplines are each about, you might say, while I am primarily a coach and I want that to be the focus. Maybe I need to throw in a little bit of trainer stuff, because obviously if you look at the 4 columns, and I don't mind sharing this with you, the reason why I want to be a trainer is because overall it is the most lucrative. It is the one that has the most stability. It is the one that has the exit value and the residual value and all that kind of stuff. And I'm not suggesting that everyone should become a trainer, but I'm saying to anyone who is a coach or a consultant for that matter, that if they can add some trainer element to their work, they might be able to have a more stable business, a more sustainable revenue stream, etc. So it is very important that you know what you are primarily, because it affects just a couple things, and I'll go to my last slide here. Whoops, sorry. Why do you need to choose one? Well, because you want to make sure that first and foremost you're enjoying a work style lifestyle match. So if you are happiest when you're home and dealing with your close friends and petting your cat or your dog, I would suggest that becoming a speaker would not be a good match for you, because that work style doesn't begin to match your lifestyle. So you do want to first and foremost choose the one that is the best match between your work style and your lifestyle. The second thing why you want to choose one is because when you're dabbling in the 4 disciplines, you saw they're 4 very different things. They require very different marketing. They require very different levels of expertise, maybe credentials. And so if you continue to dabble, you're going to spread all that personal development way too thin and may never actually reach expert status in whatever of those 4 distinctions you want. So by choosing one, you can focus your personal development at becoming that expert in that particular discipline. It's also going to help reduce confusion among the buying public. When you hate to think that because a customer thinks of you as a coach who just delivers one-on-one coaching, when they're planning their big retreat and they want to have everyone do a team building experience on the beach in Bermuda, they won't even consider you because it didn't dawn on them that you even do that kind of work. And so on the one hand, we want to make sure that people know who you are, but we also want them to make sure that they understand that you offer a variety of other subjects or other services as well. So I'm not saying that you want to choose one and only be one. You want to choose one to focus your primary marketing, your primary personal development around, and then let the other ones fall naturally into place so you don't lose opportunities, but at the same time you're not being distracted by so many opportunities that you're not really achieving greatness in any one of these disciplines. Also, it maximizes your marketing effectiveness. As you saw in my little chart, each one of those disciplines requires a very different marketing strategy. And unless you are the rarest of the rare, you do not have an unlimited amount of time and resources to devote to marketing. And so you have to say, I need to market myself in such a way that I attract the business that will help me be what I want to be. And then, obviously, the last one is that it does increase your chances of success. While we have met purists who struggle, we have never met a truly successful dabbler. And so I think that the goal of this call was to just get you thinking about these 4 different disciplines. Do that inventory as the homework to find out how you're perceived and where your dollars are really coming from. And then ask yourself, in 2014, do you want to continue to be the purist? Or do you need to do something in order to add a little bit more of stability to your overall mix in your disciplines? So with that, any questions, comments before we're done? No one dropped off the call. That's always a good sign. So I'm glad you found some value in this. Next week, we're going to be talking about economic vulnerability. The key question is, what happens if ...